I got really good news for you all today, and it's the greatest news that we could ever have, and that is this: the end of the world is coming soon. I mean, that is really good news. If you listen to a beautiful, memorized reading today of the prophet, where Jesus is going to come and bring justice to the world and those who fear him, the Son of justice, the Son of righteousness, will rise with healing in its wings, dear brothers and sisters. Isn't that beautiful? That's what we have to look forward to in this life. And this dovetails with our gospel reading today, because the disciples have taken Jesus to the temple, and they were sort of showing him around as if he needed a tour of the place. Can you imagine that? Looking at all these great stones and all the beauty of it, and Jesus was not impressed. That probably miffed him, don't you think? Oh, how great. No, not so great. The whole thing is going to tumble down into dust. Now, for them, and the way they thought was this, that the temple was the center of the earth because God dwells there. And they couldn't imagine the existence of the world apart from the temple, right? And so for them, their minds immediately went to, well, this must be the end of the world. Okay, and when's this going to happen? And so Jesus works them through all the things that need to be happening before this happens. You know, in the last 2,000 years, since the establishment of the church, everyone believed that they were living in the last days and that Jesus could come at any moment. However, what we see happening in our world today is unprecedented. It's an acceleration of what we might read in the book of Daniel, where it says, in the last time, knowledge and information is going to be accelerated. And that's what we see today. I'd like to talk with you about a couple of things. The first thing I want you to know about this knowledge is this: big data. Do you know what big data is? Pretty silent here. I know a lot of you do know and know a lot more about it than I do. What's big data? It's like this vast lake with many tributaries going into it, and it's a lake of information, knowledge, data. And it's being fed at a velocity of unprecedented speed, growing by the seconds. Every kind of a piece of information you could think of is in there, and a lot of it is really good stuff. Just think of how the medical world and all the science that's in it, a lot of mathematical equations that are inside of this pond. But there's also a lot of evil as well. In fact, it's being polluted by all sorts of moral mud. And there's no one to regulate this. Now, we have to understand what's happening around us with big data. It knows a lot about you. If you got a phone, it follows you. It knows what you buy. It knows all about your credit history, your credit cards. It knows what you watch. It knows so much about you, and it wants to manipulate you through your phone. And I would say that this is a pretty terrifying thing. Now, the second thing you need to know is artificial intelligence, AI. AI is this vast web of computers that are drawing from the big lake of big data. It feeds on it. Matter of fact, AI wouldn't exist without it. And what it does is it simulates the human mind and tries to think like the human mind and to solve problems like the human mind and to put to work machineries of all sorts of things. It's just mind-boggling what's going on with AI. And so, if AI is the engine, big data is the fuel. And so, we have to ask the question, who is driving the train? You know, 6 months ago, when I was reading about this, the governments and the companies were thinking about, hey, wait a minute. We need to put the brakes on this whole thing because we don't know where it's going. We don't know the moral implications. We don't know the human implementations of this. I'm not using the right word, but you know what I'm talking about. And in this, just the last month or so, as I'm reading, the governments and the companies are throwing caution to the wind, and now they are competing because everybody wants to drive the train, and whoever drives the train is going to win the whole thing. It'll be like Amazon. Can you imagine using anything but Amazon? I mean, really? How many people got some from Amazon in the last 2 days, right? That's terrifying. And so who's driving the train? Companies are putting billions of dollars into this. Nations are putting in billions of dollars in this because everybody's afraid of what's happening. I don't even talk about AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. What would happen if this thing starts being autonomous from humans? So, there's one other thing. Where's the train headed? No one knows. We talked to all these bigwigs that are in the field. They don't even know what it's going to look like next year. Think about that. Now, why am I talking about all of this? Well, good news. AI is not God. It isn't. We don't have to be afraid, but we have to be wise. You know, the really dangerous thing for us is this, that we will get the impression when we use our phones and tap into all of these things that we have the world at our fingertips, that we can get anything we want and we don't have to really think about it. As a matter of fact, this whole system doesn't want you to think. It wants to control you. It wants to think for you. And what we see in the Gospels is this. Yes, maybe this vast system is going to break into our lives as Catholics someday, and it's going to bring persecution to us. Yes, that may happen, but that's not the problem. Jesus says that's a good thing because now you can be a witness to me. God wants us to think. That's why we come to church, so that we can learn how to think. That we can think the thoughts of Christ. That we can feel what Christ feels, the compassion of Christ. And we can be obedient with the obedience of Christ. Now, more than ever, is it so important that we come to church and we take part deeply of the sacramental life that's here, and with all that we offer with regard to our Bible teaching, to teach us how to think when the world is losing its ability to think, when it's letting machines think for us and to dominate us. And so, good news, my brothers and sisters. Do you know this big thing called AI? All of it can just disappear by one solar blast from the sun, and it could send us all back to 1850, where we'll be planting our food in the backyard and raising our own animals. It's a small thing. It's like the Tower of Babel, when men think that they're building something great, and God has to sort of look down and just to see it. You see? So we don't have to live in fear. Jesus is bigger than AI. But we do have to be wise. You need Jesus more now. We always need it. But now, in this time of acceleration, which I believe is really near the end, we really need to stand together with Jesus in the sacramental life that he's given us here.